Everyone knows what a condom is. It's something you can grab off a shelf at any pharmacy, in dozens of colors, flavors, and materials. Simple, modern, disposable. But here's the strange part. People were using something remarkably similar thousands of years before pharmacies existed. Before plastic, before rubber, before most of what we consider civilization even began. So, the real question is, what were ancient humans actually using, and where on earth did they even get the idea? The answer may be older than you think. Imagine waking up in a small settlement 11,000 years ago. There's no glass in the windows, because there are no windows. There's no calendar on the wall, but there is a fire, smoke curling toward a hole in the roof, and the sounds of a community slowly waking up around you. Life here is short, brutal sometimes. Childbirth is dangerous, food is unpredictable. Every extra mouth to feed is a real calculation, not an abstract idea. And that creates a problem most people never think about. How do you have intimacy without always ending up with a baby? This wasn't a side issue for ancient people. It was survival math. Too many children too quickly could mean starvation for the whole group, so humans, being humans, started experimenting to understand what they came up with. You have to throw away the image of a condom as a thin, stretchy piece of latex. That image is barely 150 years old. Long before that, in ancient Egypt, there's evidence of men using thin sheaths made from linen. Yes, the same fabric used for clothing and wrapping mummies. Some historians believe these linen sheaths were worn during sex, possibly to prevent disease, possibly as a status symbol, and possibly for contraception too. But here's the strange part. The historical record isn't crystal clear. Some Egyptian images show colored sheaths that might have been decorative, ceremonial, or protective. Nobody can say for certain which purpose came first, and that creates another mystery. If linen was being used in Egypt, what was happening everywhere else in the ancient world? Travel east. And the story gets even stranger. In ancient China and Japan, there's evidence pointing to sheaths made from oiled silk paper, and in some regions, polished tortoise shell. Imagine that for a moment, a material we associate with slow-moving reptiles, shaped and smoothed for intimate use. It sounds almost unbelievable. But ancient people worked with whatever nature gave them, and nature gave them a surprising amount. In parts of Europe, evidence points to the use of animal intestines and bladders. Sheep, goats, and other livestock weren't just food sources. Their internal membranes were thin, flexible, and naturally water-resistant. Researchers discovered something unexpected here. These early animal condoms weren't crude experiments. Some were surprisingly effective barriers. Thin enough to allow sensation, strong enough to hold up during use, and reusable after being washed, reusable. Let that sink in for a second. Ancient people weren't just inventing condoms. They were maintaining them, cleaning them, reusing them like a piece of equipment. But that creates another mystery. If these materials worked reasonably well, why did it take so long for condoms to become widely used? And this is where things get weird. For most of human history, condoms weren't really about contraception at all. They were about disease. Picture Europe a few centuries ago. Cities are growing, trade routes are expanding, and along with goods and ideas, diseases are spreading too. Suddenly, protection becomes less about preventing pregnancy and more about preventing infection. This shift changes everything. Wealthy men in 16th and 17th century Europe started using linen sheaths soaked in chemical solutions, then dried before use. Some historians link early versions of these to attempts to fight the spread of certain infections during this period. But here's the twist within the twist. These early protective sheaths were expensive, time-consuming to make, often reserved for the wealthy. For most ordinary people throughout history, pregnancy prevention relied on completely different methods. Timing, withdrawal, herbal concoctions believed to prevent conception, some of which had no real effect, and others which modern science has shown may have had some basis after all. So, the story of ancient contraception isn't one invention, it's a patchwork. Different cultures solving the same problem with whatever resources were available to them. And then everything changed in the 1800s. The discovery of rubber vulcanization, a process that made rubber more durable and elastic, transformed everything. Suddenly, mass-produced rubber condoms became possible. For the first time in human history, a reliable, affordable, reusable option existed on a large scale. But even then, the story wasn't simple. For decades, laws in many countries restricted the sale and even the advertising of condoms. The technology existed, but society wasn't ready to talk about it openly. It wasn't until the 20th century, with the development of thin latex, that condoms became closer to what we recognize today. So next time you think of a condom as something purely modern, remember this. Every time this object is used today, it's the latest version of a chain of human problem-solving that stretches back thousands of years. Through linen in Egyptian tombs, through oiled paper in ancient Asia, through treated animal membranes in early Europe, through centuries of trial, error, disease, fear, and quiet experimentation, the materials have changed completely. Linen became silk, became intestine, became rubber, became latex. But the underlying human instinct never changed. The desire for intimacy, the fear of unintended consequences, the constant negotiation between pleasure and survival. The packaging is modern. The need is ancient. And maybe that's the real lesson hiding inside this story. Humans have always been inventive when it comes to protecting themselves, their relationships, and their futures. Long before science explained why these methods worked, people were already trying them, refining them, and passing that knowledge down. The technology in your pocket today carries echoes of decisions made by people who lived in a world without electricity, without modern medicine, and without any idea that their solutions would eventually evolve into something used by billions of people worldwide. Sometimes the most ordinary objects carry the longest stories, and this might just be one of them.